everyone? My name is Jamon McKinney, or you can, of course, just call me Juice, because that is my nickname. Welcome, everyone, to the Juice Alert, episode number 53 for you, ladies and gentlemen, today. If you have not subscribed to the Juice Alert already, be sure to do that right about now. You will not regret it. You can, of course, find me on YouTube as well as podcasting platforms. That includes Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that great stuff. You can also follow me and the Juice Alert on social media. Links to all the social media accounts are in the description of this episode. Today, I am specifically just covering the 2021 NBA Finals between the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks. I kind of wanted to shorten this episode a little bit just because I haven't, created a whole lot of content for you guys or talked about sports in a while. And if I were to, bring back some thoughts from other series like, the Brooklyn Nets, the Clippers, some other teams regarding basketball or incorporate some football topics, I feel like this episode is going to go way, way too long. And I really want to get this episode out to you guys before the NBA Finals officially gets underway. I'm literally creating this episode the same day the NBA Finals is taking place. Game 1 is in Phoenix, 9 p.m. Eastern time. So I'm going to get this out before the NBA Finals officially gets underway, get my opinions and thoughts out there. So listen, if you're not a big NBA fan or you're not interested in my thoughts in the NBA Finals, I apologize for that. You can skip this episode. I will be covering a whole lot more things throughout the next couple of weeks and months as well, just because the NFL season is actually quietly, coming right around the corner. So I'm really going to be picking things up here on the Juice Alert, covering, football, but I will still stick to covering basketball, maybe cover a little bit of baseball as well, as the MLB All-Star Game is coming up pretty soon here. But yeah, I have a lot of great content coming for you guys. I just wanted to point out that today I'm just focusing on the NBA Finals. There's so many storylines and things to cover, so that's what I want to talk about today. So without further ado, let's jump right in. I want to talk about Chris Paul, because Chris Paul just recently scored 41 points in a closeout Game 6 versus the Los Angeles Clippers. He led all scorers in that game, and that Game 6 performance from Chris Paul was arguably the best performance of his NBA career, considering the magnitude and the stakes that were in place in that game. Get a trip to the NBA Finals, or potentially the Clippers would force a Game 7, and if the Clippers were to win Game 7, that'd be another blown 3-1 lead on Chris Paul's resume. And obviously, Chris Paul has a great opportunity to win a championship this year. He's playing in his first ever NBA Finals. He's playing the NBA for 16 seasons. It's been a long time coming for Chris Paul. This is one of, if not the best team he's ever played on. This Phoenix Suns team. This team is very, very talented from top to bottom. So Chris Paul has a legitimate chance to win an NBA Finals MVP and legitimately a championship. So today, I want to talk about what would a championship mean for Chris Paul's legacy. A guy that many people consider one of the greatest point guards of all time, one of the best players of his era. Is he on LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard's level? No, not quite, but he's up there definitely. I want to talk about what it's going to mean for his legacy if he were to win a championship, because if Chris Paul doesn't win a championship this year, he's probably never going to win a championship in his career, because this is the best opportunity he's going to get, okay? There's been some injuries in the playoffs. The Suns are really good. They're here right now. You may never get another opportunity, okay? Now, when it comes to Chris Paul, if he wins the Phoenix Suns the NBA championship, he will forever be remembered in NBA history. I know that's kind of a cliche statement, but see, a big reason why the Toronto Raptors are a discussion today is because, well, they finally won a championship a couple of years ago, led by Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard is a big reason why the Raptors are even thought about today. No one was thinking about the Toronto Raptors a couple of years ago. They were made fun of. They were a laughing joke until they won a championship, okay? People forget that Karl Malone was a two-time league MVP. He's the second all-time leading scorer as far as career points, behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as we speak today. But people forget just how great Karl Malone was because, well, he never won a championship. That's really no fault of his own. Obviously, he wasn't super clutch in the NBA Finals, versus Michael Jordan and the crew. But anytime you lose to Michael Jordan, you shouldn't be too ashamed. But yeah, Karl Malone, great, all-time great player. But people forget about how great he was because he never won a championship. Same thing with Charles Barkley. Same thing with Allen Iverson. I've been seeing some terrible, and I mean terrible, opinions on Twitter about Allen Iverson. I literally saw a photo and a tweet the other day that said, Allen Iverson or Kyrie Irving, who's the better player? It's obviously Allen Iverson, and it ain't even close, okay? Allen Iverson won a league MVP. He's one of the top 5 scorers of all time. He led his team to an NBA Finals, but because he didn't win that NBA Finals versus Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal and the Los Angeles Lakers, people forget just how cold-blooded and how great Allen Iverson is. Even James Harden right now. I don't think people realize how great James Harden has been in his career because he hasn't won a championship. You could talk about football. Dan Marino never won a championship. And he's not being talked about enough, in my opinion, as far as all-time great quarterbacks. And not to mention, if Chris Paul leads this Phoenix Suns team to an NBA championship, he's going to be in the conversation for greatest Phoenix Sun of all time. I know Charles Barkley is great. I know the Suns have had some great players go through their team and things like that, but Chris Paul is going to be on that short list of greatest Phoenix Suns of all time. You can make the argument that if Chris Paul wins a championship, it will lock him down potentially as a top 5 point guard of all time, When you talk about the Allen Iversons, the Jason Kidds of the world, the Steve Nashes of the world. If Chris Paul were to win an NBA Finals MVP, he'd have something that Allen Iverson doesn't have. He'd have something that Jason Kidd doesn't have. He'd have something that Steve Nash doesn't have. An NBA Finals MVP. Obviously, Jason Kidd won an NBA championship later in his career as a role player with the Dallas Mavericks, but he never led a team to a championship. This team right here is Chris Paul's team. I know Devin Booker is arguably the best player on the team right now, but a lot of people point to Chris Paul's leadership, his ability to make teammates better, and let's be real. The Phoenix Suns were not a great team until they acquired Chris Paul. Could they have made the playoffs without Chris Paul? It's possible, but would they be in the finals without Chris Paul? I highly doubt that, okay? And like I said, if Chris Paul wins a championship, you can at least solidify him potentially as a top 5 point guard of all time. Some people still might disagree with you, and I might be in that category still because I think Chris Paul, if I were to choose right now between him being overrated or underrated as a player, as far as where he ranks among the all-time greats, I say he's a little bit overrated. Chris Paul never was, the most dominant guy of his era. He was maybe a top 5 player for a couple of seasons, but not a whole lot of seasons. But bottom line, Chris Paul's a great player, and he definitely move up my all-time list if he wins a championship. And see, when you win a title, you forget a lot of the shortcomings of a player, okay? When a player wins a championship, I should say, you sort of forget about the blemishes on their resume in the playoffs. Kevin Durant won 2 titles in Golden State. People all of a sudden were quietly forgetting they blew a 3-1 lead to the Golden State Warriors the year before he got there, There were some series versus San Antonio where, he was very good for the series but didn't quite close them out, LeBron James has won titles. People forget about how bad he was versus the Dallas Mavericks in 2011. When you win a championship, these things get glossed over because, you're in the moment, you're a champion, and it's great. So I think that if Chris Paul wins a championship, we'll forget about the 3-1 lead that he blew a couple of years ago versus James Harden and the Houston Rockets. We'll forget the fact that he couldn't lead the Los Angeles Clippers to an NBA championship when he had a really good roster and a pretty good head coach in Doc Rivers year in and year out. Okay, so when it comes to Chris Paul, if he wins a championship, like I said, he will forever be remembered probably the way he should be in NBA history because Chris Paul, he's the ultimate winner. He won at a high level in Oklahoma City, won at a high level in New Orleans, won at a high level in Houston, and now in his first season with the Phoenix Suns, he has a chance to lead them to a championship. I believe if Chris Paul wins a championship, he'll forever be remembered in NBA history, and we'll probably forget about some of his overall playoff blemishes, because, he'll be a champion. And if you're a champion, you deserve to be praised, no doubt about it. Rooting for Chris Paul in the finals, definitely. So I now want to officially make my NBA Finals prediction for the 2021 NBA Finals between the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks. And this was a tough evaluation for me as far as picking who's going to win the NBA Finals between the Suns and the Bucks. A couple of years ago when Miami faced Oklahoma City in the finals, I felt strongly that Miami was going to win. I was right. I actually picked the Toronto Raptors to beat the Golden State Warriors 2 seasons ago, and that actually ended up happening. Last year, I felt strongly about the Lakers winning in 6 games. I was 100% right. Both of these teams are very similar when you talk about the Bucks and the Suns. Both can shoot the three. Both have pretty solid benches. Both can play really, really good defense when they want to. And both teams don't have a ton of experience regarding NBA Finals games. Like, we talk about Chris Paul being a veteran. Chris Paul's never played in an NBA Finals game. Giannis Antetokounmpo never played in an NBA Finals game, And both of these teams have benefited from injuries. Let's be real. The Brooklyn Nets being injured definitely helped the Bucks. The Phoenix Suns, we gotta admit, injuries to Anthony Davis and Kawhi Leonard definitely helped them along the way. But both these teams also have overcome injuries to their star player. Chris Paul missed the first 2 games of the conference finals versus the Los Angeles Clippers. The Phoenix Suns were able to win both of those games. Giannis Antetokounmpo goes down in game number 3 versus the Atlanta Hawks. The Milwaukee Bucks were still able to close out that series despite Giannis not playing. So both of these teams have shown they're more than their star players. The Bucks have proven they can win without Giannis Antetokounmpo, and the Phoenix Suns have proven they can win games without Chris Paul, even though I'd argue that Devin Booker is the best and most talented player on that team, okay? With all that being said, my conclusion is this. I believe the Phoenix Suns are going to beat the Milwaukee Bucks in the 2021 NBA Finals in 6 games. Now, I will admit, Milwaukee matches up very well with the Phoenix Suns. I would not be shocked if the Milwaukee Bucks win the series. In fact, I'm actually rooting for Milwaukee to win the series because I really do like Giannis Antetokounmpo. I want him to win a championship this year. Not saying I'm rooting against Chris Paul. I just, cater more towards Giannis. I like him a little bit more as a player than Chris Paul, but that's neither here nor there. Milwaukee matches up very well with the Phoenix Suns, okay, because they're a long, lengthy team. They have really good defenders in Khris Middleton, PJ Tucker, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, again, how many games in this series is Giannis going to play? Only time will tell. I expect Giannis to probably miss the first 2 games of this series, and I expect Giannis to come back in game number 3 for the first set of games in Milwaukee. And I will say, I'm just going to say it right now, I believe both teams are going to split the first 2 games, and then we'll really get a series once Giannis probably comes back in game number 3 in Milwaukee. But with the Bucks, matching up very well defensively, where they can guard a guy like Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, make things tough on them. The Suns have also shown the ability to defend at a high level. And I think the Phoenix Suns, well, actually, I don't think, it's pretty much unarguable at this point. They're the healthier team, they're the more well-rested team, and they've got home court advantage. And when I compare these 2 teams, the talent is pretty even. The Milwaukee Bucks roster is just as good as the Phoenix Suns roster, in my opinion. Heck, you can make the argument Milwaukee might be a little bit better than Phoenix as far as talent goes, okay? However, I have to nitpick when I make these evaluations, okay? And the Suns do the little things better than the Milwaukee Bucks, okay? See, the Bucks were inches away from losing to the Brooklyn Nets. If Kevin Durant doesn't have a size 18-foot shoe, and if his foot isn't on that 3-point line, the Milwaukee Bucks are going home in the second round. And if it were not for the Brooklyn Nets injuries, I don't think the Milwaukee Bucks would have made it this far. Okay, I think that Brooklyn would probably be in the NBA Finals. But I can also make the argument that, Kawhi Leonard played for the Los Angeles Clippers. The Phoenix Suns might not be here, so I get that, okay? However, when it comes to Milwaukee, I think Milwaukee beats themselves a little bit too much. And overall, I trust a Monty Williams coach team in the NBA Finals over a Mike Budenholzer coach team in the NBA Finals. The talent level is even. But when the talent level is even, I look at coaching, okay? That's going to be ultimately the difference in my opinion. The coaching of the Phoenix Suns will prove to be better than the coaching of the Milwaukee Bucks. I know that Mike Budenholzer and the Milwaukee Bucks have overcome a lot in these playoffs, and Mike Budenholzer deserves a lot of credit for making adjustments throughout these playoffs, but I still don't trust him over a guy in Monty Williams, who I believe is a better head coach. And the Phoenix Suns, they don't blow a lot of huge leads. You saw the Milwaukee Bucks blow a huge lead in Game 5 versus the Brooklyn Nets, nearly cost them the series. You saw them in Game number 6 in the closeout game versus Atlanta. Atlanta had every reason to lay down versus Milwaukee, and Milwaukee somehow let them come back. I don't understand it. There's just stretches where in Milwaukee, they tend to jack up a bunch of threes. They don't attack the paint as much as they should. There's just certain stretches where Milwaukee doesn't look like a championship team. But from wire to wire, despite the injuries, the Phoenix Suns have been the more dominant team in these playoffs. And I think that when you have a great floor general in Chris Paul, you're not going to blow many leads. You're going to have great possessions pretty much throughout these NBA Finals, where Chris Paul is not going to turn the ball over in critical spots. He's going to give the Phoenix Suns the best possible shot. I'm not sure if Jrue Holiday is going to be able to match that energy from Chris Paul. I like Giannis Antetokounmpo a lot, but how injured is Giannis? We don't know for sure. Giannis is not going to be 100% in these playoffs. That's going to be a given, because if it were the regular season, we wouldn't be talking about Giannis potentially coming back this fast. But because it's the playoffs, he's got to speed up his recovery. And I think a guy like DeAndre Ayton, who's really coming to his own in these playoffs, is really going to take advantage of that. So overall, I think Phoenix does the little things better than the Bucks. They shoot the lights out the three when you give them opportunities. They have a high-powered offense. They're very good defensively. They have the size. They have the home court advantage. And in reality, it just seems like everything is breaking Phoenix's way. They got a bunch of breaks versus the Lakers. They got a break versus the Nuggets, who are injured. They got a bunch of breaks versus the Clippers. In reality, I just think that it might be the Phoenix Suns' year. And I believe the Phoenix Suns are going to beat the Milwaukee Bucks in 6 games. So, who's going to be the NBA Finals MVP of the 2021 NBA playoffs? I've already made my pick. I believe the Suns are going to win in 6 games. My pick to win the NBA Finals MVP this year in the 2021 NBA Finals is going to be Devin Booker. I think this stage is made for a guy like Devin Booker, a great scorer that can shoot the lights out of the 3 ball. Devin Booker, when it's all said and done, he has a chance, if he stays healthy and if he plays long enough, he can score 30,000 points for his career. He's that lethal of a scorer. I think Chris Paul is going to set him up to get a lot of good looks, and I think that he's going to take advantage of some matchups versus Milwaukee. I think Devin Booker is primed for this opportunity. He's ready. I believe he's going to lead all scorers in this series. I don't trust Giannis' health, and I don't think that the Bucks are going to win this series. So, well, if the Bucks don't win the series, they obviously probably don't get the NBA Finals MVP, because the last time we saw a losing team have a Finals MVP was when Jerry West won the NBA Finals MVP in a losing effort. So, again, I like Chris Paul. There is a narrative that's being driven for Chris Paul, because it seems like the media doesn't want to give anyone else credit outside of Chris Paul for the Phoenix Suns' success, which I understand people love Chris Paul, but we got to slow it down a little bit, people. But either way, I'm going with Devin Booker. I think Devin Booker is going to average well over 27 points per game for this series. I believe he's going to hit the big shots when it matters most. I think in a winning effort, he'll be the best player on the floor. And I think this is Devin Booker's coming out party, and he'll win the 2021 NBA Finals MVP. So that's my prediction right there. Phoenix Suns in 6 games. Devin Booker, your 2021 NBA Finals MVP. So I now want to talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo. I've been pretty critical of Giannis over the past 2 to 3 seasons. And look, the only reason why I've been really super critical of Giannis is because I felt that too many people were anointing Giannis Antetokounmpo before he had sustained a great amount of success. A lot of people were claiming that Giannis, after he won his first ever NBA MVP award, that he was a top 5 player in the game, man. I just said no. That's not the case. I don't think Giannis has the resume of a LeBron James or a Kevin Durant or a Steph Curry or a Kawhi Leonard or even a James Harden, where as we're kind of being prisoners of the moment, with Giannis a little bit. I felt strongly, and I still feel strongly about this. Giannis did not deserve to win the first MVP award that he won. That award should have went to James Harden, who was putting up historical offensive numbers, carrying the Houston Rockets, through a bunch of injuries. Chris Paul was injured. A bunch of good players were injured on that team. James Harden outperformed Giannis, and he was the better player at the time than Giannis. Now, the second MVP Giannis won over LeBron James, I felt he was better than LeBron James in the regular season, and his team had more success. So I said, okay, we can give Giannis that MVP, okay? But I also said there are areas of Giannis' game that he needs to work on, obviously. The Bucks have been great in the regular season, but we saw Giannis blow a 2-0 lead versus Kawhi Leonard and the Toronto Raptors, where Kawhi Leonard shut him down, along with the Toronto Raptors defense. Same thing with the Miami Heat last year. The Miami Heat smoked the Bucks in 5 games, and Giannis was not very good in that series, okay? I've always claimed that Giannis isn't the greatest closer just because he doesn't have a great jump shot. He's not always the best one-on-one player because his skill set still needs a little bit of developing. I also said that I don't think the Bucks have a good enough roster around Giannis for him to win a championship. Well, now we fast forward to Giannis, and he is in the NBA Finals. And Giannis Antetokounmpo is only 26 years old. And so far, he's got a pretty good resume already, if I do say so myself, okay? Giannis, at 26 years old, is already a 2-time league MVP, a 5-time All-Star, an All-Star Game MVP, a Defensive Player of the Year award winner. And now Giannis is going to be playing in the NBA Finals, assuming he comes back healthy from that knee injury, And does Giannis have support around him? Do the Bucks have a great roster? Absolutely. And we even saw the Milwaukee Bucks be able to win games without Giannis in the playoffs. Khris Middleton really stepped up, and the role players really stepped up. So it's not like Giannis is playing with a bunch of scrubs. But I was one of the people that said, is this team good enough to carry Giannis if he gets hurt? I didn't think so. So I was a guy that underrated his supporting cast in the first place. But we also have to give Giannis a lot of credit as well, because the Bucks, they're not in this position without Giannis and his greatness throughout the playoffs and the regular season. And I'm here to tell you right now, I've never called Giannis overall an overrated player. Did I think the media was overrating him at first when they were prisoners of the moment when he won MVP? Absolutely. But now we're starting to see the playoff success match the regular season success for Giannis Antetokounmpo. And right now today, Giannis Antetokounmpo is more underrated than overrated. The reason why is because Giannis, to me right now, he's the best big man in the game of basketball right now today. If I need one big man on my team in today's NBA, I'm starting that team with Giannis Antetokounmpo, okay? I like Anthony Davis, but Anthony Davis isn't as durable as Giannis. Giannis plays just as good of defense. Anthony Davis never quite was in the MVP conversation when he was with the New Orleans Pelicans. Giannis is a 2-time a 2-time league MVP, and Giannis has led his team to the NBA Finals, okay? Anthony Davis never had a whole lot of playoff success as the number 1 option in New Orleans. I understand you can point to his lack of supporting cast, and we can talk about what he did with LeBron James in the NBA Finals last year. But when we compare Giannis and Anthony Davis, I think Giannis is the better player, just flat out. Now, if I'm starting a team, Giannis has proven that he can win at a high level. Anthony Davis has not proven as the number 1 option he can do that. When you talk about a guy like Nikola Jokic, I love Nikola Jokic. He definitely deserved to win the MVP award this past season. But Jokic doesn't play enough defense, okay? At some point, defense has to matter. We see it in the playoffs. The game slows down. You need to be able to get some stops. And I think Giannis, while he may not have the offensive skill set of a Nikola Jokic, he's pretty good offensively. And defensively, that's where he trumps a guy like Jokic. And not to mention, Giannis is in the NBA Finals. Jokic has gotten to a conference finals, but he hasn't been to the NBA Finals yet. And Joel Embiid, he's not very durable. And he hasn't even reached the conference finals yet. Joel Embiid has not proven that he can consistently elevate under pressure in the playoffs. This is the first time where I'm seeing Giannis really, truly elevate under pressure in the playoffs. Now, again, I'd like to see Giannis complete this journey in the NBA Finals. But again, we're kind of nitpicking right here. Giannis is 26 years old. He's still got a lot of basketball ahead of him. If he loses to a great Suns team in the finals, and he's not 100%, we should not crush the guy. You know, Kevin Durant got to an NBA Finals at age 23. No one was crushing him when he lost to a stacked Miami Heat team. No one was crushing LeBron James when he lost to a stacked San Antonio Spurs team the first time he got to the finals. As long as you're getting to a finals and making deep playoff runs, I can live with that. Over the past 4 years, Giannis has consistently been averaging 25 to 28 points per game. Giannis doesn't miss games. He's proven to be super durable. Outside of this one injury he suffered in the playoffs, he plays defense, and now he's in the NBA Finals. And Giannis has had no superstar level player by his side. You know, he hasn't played with a Dwayne Wade like a LeBron James has, or a Kyrie Irving, or a Khris or an Anthony Davis. This is Giannis's team, okay? It's not like he was playing alongside Russell Westbrook, or Steph Curry, or Klay Thompson, like Kevin Durant has played alongside in his career. This is Giannis's team. Giannis is winning with a good team, but he doesn't have a superstar level player to always bail him out. I like Khris Middleton, but Khris Middleton isn't quite a superstar yet. He's close, but not quite on that level, okay? And I'm gonna kind of give Giannis the benefit of the doubt, similar to how I give Aaron Rodgers the benefit of the doubt, just because Milwaukee is not a big-time free agent destination for NBA players. Same thing with Green Bay, Wisconsin. So Giannis, like Aaron Rodgers, can't just go to the front office and say, hey, get me a star-level player, you know, because sometimes those star-level players don't want to play in Milwaukee or in Wisconsin because it's not a big-time market. So Giannis has to play with marginal players, you know, or I should say he has to work with B to B plus level players rather than A to A plus level players. Like he has to work with a Drew Holiday as opposed to maybe a Kyrie Irving or a Damian Lillard, you know. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has been carrying the Packers roster, you know, with C plus to B minus marginal players for years because, well, the market is small. You know, he's the franchise. And everyone talks about how Giannis can't shoot. He doesn't dribble all that well. Well, I'll take 28 points per game on 55% shooting with 13 rebounds and 5 assists in the playoffs all day, every day without thinking twice. That's what Giannis is averaging this year in the 2021 playoffs. So I think when it comes to Giannis, we tend to nitpick his game. But in reality, Giannis has accomplished a lot. He's not even 28 years old, and he could win a championship earlier than Michael Jordan was able to win a championship. Earlier than LeBron James, earlier than Kevin Durant. If Giannis wins a championship, he's on pace to become an all-time great. So I think Giannis is finally starting to really improve his game. I think the playoff success is starting to match the regular season success. And right now today, Giannis is the best big man in the game, and he's more underrated than overrated in my opinion. So I want to talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo, aka the Greek Freak. I want to talk about his teammate, Khris Middleton. Because I've been critical of Khris Middleton in the past. You know, in the past, I've said Khris Middleton's a good player, but not quite a closer. I don't see him any more than a number 3 option, potentially on a championship team. Whereas if he's your number 2, you know, he's a lower level number 2. I felt that Giannis Antetokounmpo needed more than a guy like Khris Middleton to potentially get to the NBA Finals. And ideally, you want to see Milwaukee finish the job. Like, if Milwaukee doesn't win a championship, it's kind of, I'm not going to say a disappointment, but a missed opportunity. Just because this team is really good and they've gotten a lot of breaks during these playoffs. But regardless if Milwaukee wins the championship this year or not, Khris Middleton has proved me wrong. Khris Middleton is very underrated. In these playoffs, he's been excellent for the Milwaukee Bucks. In fact, when the rubber meets the road, Khris Middleton has been the closer in the big games. This guy's been hitting tough shots. He's been knocking down threes, getting to the basket. I mean, he's been an absolute bucket throughout these playoffs. And when Giannis Antetokounmpo went down due to injury, Khris Middleton stepped up and became the best player on the Milwaukee Bucks roster. Everyone talks about how Paul George stepped up for the Los Angeles Clippers. Right now today, I'll take Khris Middleton over Paul George because in the clutch, Khris Middleton is a stone cold killer. He's a better and more clutch player than Paul George. Not saying Paul George is a bad player, not saying Paul George is a choker, but right now today, Give me Khris Middleton over Paul George. Khris Middleton is trending upward. I think Paul George is staying about the same, and at times, he's shown he can't deliver when it matters most, okay? Khris Middleton, when he gets hot, he's among one of the best scorers in the NBA. I mean, he scored 20 points in the fourth quarter in a game versus the Atlanta Hawks these past playoffs. I mean, this guy's putting up 35-plus point games when it matters most in the playoffs, hitting tough shots in the clutch. And not to mention, Khris Middleton will defend the best player on the opposing team. He's an underrated passer as well. Have 5 assists this year. This guy can create his own shot. He's very efficient from the free throw line. The guy shoots over 47% from the field. And he'll play defense, like I said. And also, we have to give Khris Middleton his flowers because as a rookie with the Detroit Pistons, Khris Middleton averaged 6 points per game. And now today, he's turned himself into one of the best players in the NBA. A guy that can give you 20 to 25 points on any given night. He's a legitimate closer. And I think he's the biggest X factor potentially for the Bucks in these NBA Finals because when Khris Middleton is hot and hitting big time clutch shots, the Milwaukee Bucks more times than not are going to beat you. So I'm really a big fan of Khris Middleton, and I like his game. And I was a doubter of Khris Middleton, and I was wrong, completely wrong. And I think Khris Middleton is on the upward trend, and if he keeps this up, he has a chance to one day become a Hall of Famer. Now again, compared to the NFL or the MLB, the Basketball Hall of Fame lets more people in than people would like, you know. But if you're an NBA Hall of Famer, that means you're a darn good player and have accomplished a lot. So if Khris Middleton continues to get better and better, he has an outside shot to make it into that class, and I think Khris Middleton deserves some flowers. He's been excellent in the playoffs, and Khris Middleton, to me, for the Milwaukee Bucks, is underrated, if anything. So I want to talk about the Bucks once again. Then I'll kind of, shift to the Suns. And then I'll maybe talk about the Bucks once again. Then I'll close the show out. So Giannis Antetokounmpo, as we know, got injured in game number 3 versus the Atlanta Hawks, where he kind of hyperextended his knee. Unfortunately for Giannis, this comes at a very bad and unopportune time. Just because, well, when you look at Giannis, this guy has been durable throughout his career. He's been one of the most durable players in the NBA. And just at the worst possible time, he gets injured. And unfortunately, I feel sorry for Giannis just because I don't think he deserves this. I think Giannis deserves to be fully healthy for the playoffs. He's done everything right in his career. But unfortunately, injuries are a part of the game, man. It sucks for Giannis. But I will say, I have to give the Milwaukee Bucks some credit because they've proven they can win games and be an elite level team even without Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now again, are they better without Giannis? Obviously not. Giannis is a 2-time league MVP, one of the best defenders in the game. He's the best big man in basketball. If you add that guy to your team, you're automatically better. I don't want to hear any arguments from anyone else. If you think the Bucks are better without Giannis, you're delusional and you're on crack. Maybe you're not a delusional person, but that's a delusional opinion on your part, okay? But I will say, guys like Khris Middleton have shown they can step up in big spots. Jrue Holiday has shown he can be a facilitator and a scoring option for this Bucks team. Brook Lopez has stepped up. Jeff Teague has stepped up. PJ Tucker, a good veteran player, playing very tough defense occasionally, will hit some big three-point shots. Same with Pat Connaughton. The Bucks have built a great roster. And you have to give Mike Budenholzer a lot of credit. I've been critical of Mike Budenholzer, but he's really gotten this team to buy in. And we've seen other teams without their star player implode. The Los Angeles Lakers, if they're missing Anthony Davis or LeBron James, they're not a good team. They're not a championship level team. If the Portland Trailblazers are without Damian Lillard, they're not a championship team. Same thing with the Dallas Mavericks. If they have no Luka Doncic, they're not close to a playoff team. Okay? So you have to give the Milwaukee Bucks a lot of credit for being able to hold it down without their star player, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'm hoping Giannis will be healthy for the 2021 NBA Finals. But regardless, I think the Bucks can hold it down for at least 2 to 3 games before he comes back. So we'll see what happens. But you have to give the Bucks a lot of credit because they've shown they can win without their star player. And that's very hard in today's NBA because the NBA is a star-driven league. No doubt about it. So let me circle back to the Phoenix Suns because the Phoenix Suns have made it to the NBA Finals for the first time since 1993, 28 seasons ago. And how did the Phoenix Suns get here? Well, let's talk about it, okay? Because last year, in the bubble of the 2020 playoffs, where the Suns didn't quite qualify for the playoffs because their record was not good enough, but in the bubble, they had an opportunity to compete for a playoff spot. They obviously didn't make it. But I think in the bubble last year, the Phoenix Suns, as a collective unit, they gained confidence. They really did. They went undefeated in the bubble. And they proved to themselves that this team is not only talented, but we can win at a high level. Like I said, that gave that team a lot of confidence. And then, when you add a guy like Jay Crowder, and you add a guy like Chris Paul, two veteran players that have played a lot of basketball, Jay Crowder, a veteran role player, Chris Paul, a veteran all-star level player, then you really think this team can take off, you know? And these two guys have been so critical for the development of a guy like Devin Booker, for the development of a guy like DeAndre Ayton, a former number 1 overall pick that has really blossomed into his own in the playoffs. You know, Mikal Bridges is playing well. Cameron Payne is a good young player that has spoken very highly of Chris Paul and Jay Crowder. And you also have to give Monty Williams a lot of credit, their current head coach. Monty Williams is among one of the best head coaches in all of basketball. Okay, he has established a great culture in Phoenix. 2 years in, he's led this team to the NBA Finals. That is astonishing. And what's crazy about this is, look, I felt the Phoenix Suns were going to be a good team. I felt they were a legitimate playoff team, but I just felt, okay, this team hadn't made the playoffs in, 9, 10, 11 years, and, okay, you add Chris Paul, but, baby steps. This team has to learn how to win. Not only did this team make the playoffs, this team goes to the NBA Finals the first year Chris Paul gets there. That just goes to show you how valuable a guy like Chris Paul is, and how talented Devin Booker is, and how good this roster overall is. And you have to give the Phoenix Suns front office and scouting department a lot of credit, because this team is very talented. And also, the Phoenix Suns showed that winning in the regular season matters. They had home court advantage throughout most of these playoffs, and they're going to have home court advantage in the finals. I think that's going to be a huge difference as to why they potentially will win the series in 6 games versus Milwaukee, And I will also say, you need to get some breaks in reality, okay? The Brooklyn Nets, it seemed like everything was working against them for some odd reason. They couldn't quite get breaks. They couldn't quite stay healthy. Couldn't quite get the chemistry down, Kevin Durant's foot is on the line for the game-winning shot when they could have been in the NBA Finals potentially, Whereas with Phoenix, they get an injured Lakers team. They get an injured Denver Nuggets team. They get an injured Los Angeles Clippers team. Now, I'm not saying Phoenix isn't great, but you mean to tell me they don't benefit from those breaks? They definitely do. So, look, the Phoenix Suns, they've had an incredible season. They've added talent to this roster in Chris Paul and Jay Crowder. The guys that were in the building initially got better and better and have developed, and they're well coached. So this Phoenix Suns team, whether they win the NBA Finals or not, I'm forever going to remember them, because the turnaround from where they were a couple of years ago to where they are now has been astonishing. And you have to give Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and this front office a lot of credit, along with the rest of the players on the roster as well. So we'll circle back to the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks have made it to the NBA Finals for the first time since 1974, which was over 45 years ago. And I give the Milwaukee Bucks organization a ton of credit for getting this team to an NBA Finals. Well, obviously the players have to go out there and perform, but the organization and the front office is what puts this team together. And I will say, Milwaukee has always been at a disadvantage from the jump. You want to know why? Because, Milwaukee, Wisconsin isn't as attractive as a place like South Beach or Los Angeles or even Brooklyn, New York. It's Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Look, I'm not trying to take a shot at Milwaukee, Wisconsin, because I've never been there. I've never lived there. Heck, if I go there one day, it might be one of the best experiences I've ever experienced, But when it comes to attraction, it's not the most ideal place that comes to mind. When you think of attractive cities, in the United States of America. That's just the reality. I'm sorry, Milwaukee fans, but even you guys have to admit this, okay? But, when it comes to Milwaukee, not a free agent destination. So what does that mean? That means the organization must draft well, and they have to hit on some trades. And they have to bring in players that they believe are going to fit their culture, and they have to bring in players that are going to buy in. And they also have to do a good job of keeping a star player like Giannis Antetokounmpo in the city. And they have to keep them there. They don't want that guy to leave, because if that guy leaves, then man, you're against a lot of other teams that have star players that are attractive destinations, Imagine if Milwaukee didn't have Giannis on the roster. I mean, who's going to want to play there, But you have to give the Milwaukee Bucks organization a lot of credit. Not only did they not make excuses about the market they were in, like the Green Bay Packers have constantly made when it comes to Aaron Rodgers as far as acquiring more players, they went out and made some moves. They traded for PJ Tucker. They traded for Jrue Holiday. And were those the most flashy moves? No, they weren't. But they were actually moves that needed to be made. They found those two guys that fit their culture and fit what they wanted to do. And they got those guys to buy in. And what do you know? The Milwaukee Bucks, a year later, they're in the NBA Finals. And they also drafted Giannis 15th overall. And they developed Giannis. Giannis was not an MVP level player coming into the NBA. He was a role player from the start. He developed into a solid starter. And now he's a league MVP candidate year in and year out. And also, you have to give them credit for trading for Khris Middleton and developing him through their farm system, because Khris Middleton in Detroit wasn't all that great as a rookie. And they also, like I said, convinced Giannis to stay. If Giannis is not there, this team doesn't have a chance to compete for a championship. And did Milwaukee get some breaks along the way with Brooklyn's injuries? Yes, they did, but Milwaukee also made moves. And unlike the Green Bay Packers organization that continues to make excuses about the salary cap, about the market, the Milwaukee Bucks organization didn't do that. They took it upon themselves to say, hey, even though we are not the most attractive free agent destination, we can still go out there and make some moves, which is why I've been preaching for Green Bay to do all these years with Aaron Rodgers. So I give the Milwaukee Bucks organization a ton of credit for evaluating a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo and taking a shot on him. Same thing with Khris Middleton and developing those players as well. But also trading for PJ Tucker, trading for Jrue Holiday, making good subtle moves to improve this team. So congratulations to the Milwaukee Bucks. They're in the NBA Finals for the first time in over 45 years. And I'm definitely rooting for Milwaukee to potentially win a championship this year. So one storyline that I want to cover right here is the fact that there have been so many injuries throughout the 2021 NBA playoffs. So many injuries. It's a shame, And injuries suck, especially when there are injuries to star players. I'm sorry, but if Aaron Rodgers goes down for the Green Bay Packers, their season's over. Same thing with Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks. If Russell Wilson goes down, their season's over. Same thing with Tom Brady. Their season's over if Tom Brady goes down, And when it comes to guys like LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, you want those guys to be 100% healthy. And there's been a big list of players during these playoffs that have been injured, and it's really shifted how the playoffs have played out, in my opinion, okay? And, I want to go over the list of notable players that have gotten injured during the 2021 NBA playoffs. Anthony Davis, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Trae Young, Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Jaylen Brown, Jamal Murray, Will Barton, and not to mention LeBron James and Donovan Mitchell weren't necessarily injured. Donovan Mitchell missed one game versus Memphis, then came back and was able to play for the rest of the playoff games. But at times, you could see Donovan Mitchell and LeBron James were a little bit hobbled, So they had to play through some injuries. And it obviously didn't really affect Donovan Mitchell. He still played well in the playoffs. But LeBron James, you could tell that he kind of was a little bit uneasy out there, And all the players that I mentioned were either injured at some point in the playoffs and had to play through an injury, or are missing significant time right now, aka Giannis Antetokounmpo, or were not able to participate in the playoffs point blank period because of injuries. Those players being Jamal Murray, Will Barton, and Jaylen Brown. And obviously we know about the Brooklyn Nets injuries, Kyrie Irving getting injured, James Harden having to play through injuries, not being 100%. I want to answer this question. Have the injuries ruined the 2021 NBA playoffs? I'm not going to say that they've ruined the playoffs just because I think we're going to get a great NBA Finals versus the Milwaukee Bucks and the Phoenix Suns, but I'm one of those people that wants to see every single team at their best. I want to see the best of the best colliding and the best of the best giving it their all. Okay, I want to see every team 100% healthy and may the best man win. I don't want to see Kawhi Leonard hurt and the Phoenix Suns obviously being favorites to win that series because Kawhi Leonard's hurt. I think if Kawhi Leonard played, the Los Angeles Clippers would be in the NBA Finals. I don't want to see James Harden out there hobbled and injured and Kyrie Irving hurt. If those two injuries don't occur, the Brooklyn Nets might win the NBA Finals. So these injuries have tipped the scale a lot in the playoffs. It's been unfortunate. And while the injuries have not ruined the 2021 NBA playoffs, it's definitely tipped the scale towards a different direction. And the injuries are unfortunate because you don't want to see any player get injured, let alone star players. And I hope next year that we get a more healthy NBA playoffs because I think next year it'll be a whole different dynamic to the playoffs if everyone is healthy. Because this year, if I were to guess, if everyone was healthy, just based on talent alone, I say the Brooklyn Nets and the Los Angeles Clippers probably meet in the NBA Finals, or either the Brooklyn Nets or the Los Angeles Lakers, because when you look at those teams on paper, those are the most talented teams. I know I was here to go out there and perform, but injuries definitely affect the game. Not every team is able to overcome a star player's injury like Milwaukee was with Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's just not how every team is built. Okay, so unfortunately, injuries happen. I'm hoping that next year the playoffs are a little bit better as far as the injuries are concerned. But I will say Phoenix versus Milwaukee is a win for the NBA just because it shows there is parity in the NBA. And these teams haven't been in the NBA Finals in forever, and I'm interested to see what happens. But the injuries definitely leave a sour taste in my mouth, no doubt about it. Well, everyone, that's pretty much all I have today. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode today. Have a God bless day, stay safe, and I'm Ghost. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juiciest Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big-time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juiciest Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.